Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone to our webinar this evening about PG&E's Community Wildfire Safety Program. My name is Dave Meyer, and I'm a senior manager with our Customer Emergency Operations team, and I'll be moderating our session here tonight. We are here to share information about what we're doing to reduce wildfire risk and to make our system safer. To start, you can participate in this webinar with American Sign Language by clicking the link that's being provided in the chat. If you'd like to get the information in a language other than English, we're continuing to host in-language presentations this summer. I encourage customers to visit pge.com/webinars for a schedule of all of our events. You can also view real-time closed captions in English, Spanish, or Chinese by clicking the CC button in the bottom right corner of your screen, and then you can change the language by clicking Settings and adjusting the caption or subtitle language. For our presentation tonight, we want to make sure you have the opportunity to ask us questions and also give us your feedback. The presentation will be about 30 minutes, and then we'll have time for Q&A. If you'd like to ask a question, you can send it at any time in the chat. If we're not able to get to your question today, or if you have a very specific question about your home or business, feel free to email us at wildfiresafety@pge.com, and we will respond to you promptly. We'll also be recording today's presentation, and we will post it to our website in the following weeks at pge.com/webinars. So I'd like to start our webinar how we start all of our meetings at PG&E with a quick safety moment. So we want to share tips to help you get ready for and stay safe this wildfire season. We encourage everyone to prepare for natural disasters or any type of emergency. Build a disaster supply kit for you and your family or business, and make sure to include food, water, medication, flashlights, first aid kits, and importantly, a list of emergency contacts to help keep you safe. If you'd like information on how to prepare for an emergency, visit safetyactioncenter.pge.com. And now that we're off to a safe start, we'll jump into our agenda. So today we're going to talk about how we identify and reduce wildfire risk. We'll discuss the wildfire safety work that's happening across the communities we serve. We'll give an overview of safety outages and how they keep our communities safer, and we'll talk about available resources for our customers. So this is our PG&E team tonight. We have Ron Richardson, PG&E's Vice President, and we have Tom Smith and Joe Segura, both joining me from our Customer Emergency Planning and Operations team. All right, with that, I will turn the presentation over to Ron Richardson, Vice President here at PG&E, to discuss the work we're doing to prevent wildfires in our service area.
All right, thank you, Dave. And thanks to everyone who could join us tonight. My name is Ron Richardson, and I'm the Vice President here at PG&E. To understand where we need to focus on, we first have to identify where the wildfire risk is the greatest. And what you see here on this map on the left-hand side is what we come up with this high fire threat district map that we've collaborated with the PUC and CAL FIRE to identify. And as you can see, I'll call it the salmon color, which we call it our tier 2 area. You can kind of see what those areas are at throughout California. And what you can see a lot of is I'll call it the mustard color, which is our tier 3, which is our most risk that we have. And as you can kind of see, 5.2 million customers system-wide here at PG&E, and 494 of those are in HFTD areas. We think about the distribution lines at PG&E, 108,000 plus, and 28,000 plus of those miles, again, are in high threat area districts. And you can even see our transmission lines. Total miles is 19,000, a little over, and we have almost 6,000 miles of those in those tier 2, tier 3 areas. I also want to mention too, you can find the CPUC's HFTD map by visiting ia.cpuc.ca.gov/fire map, and we'll put that in the post so you guys can see that. So move on to the next slide. Thank you. So what you see here is it's really about the layers of protection that we have. When you think about using the latest technologies like the weather cameras that we use, we monitor those daily, and even our external partners actually use those cameras also. Ensuring safety via enhanced protection and temporary outages. And Tom Smith will talk later on about those programs. Keeping trees and branches away from power lines is key. And we continue with our vegetation management efforts. Installing stronger poles and power lines. We're using a covered conductor that helps reduce the crossfades and the ignitions. And then at the last, you think about the 10,000 miles that we're going to execute here at PG&E. And those efforts are already underway. That's a 10-year program. But so when you see these programs, you look through those, and some of our programs that are protecting us today, but some of these programs too are being built to protect us for tomorrow. But what you'll see, there's multiple layers here that we're doing everything we can to keep our hometown safe. The one thing I also want to kind of mention too is PG&E is partnering with XPRIZE Wildfire. This is going to be a 4-year program that we're bringing the experts all across the world, the scientists, the entrepreneurs, to try to bring that technology to PG&E to do everything we can to stop these fires. And with that, I'll turn it over to Tom Smith to continue with some of the programs that we're doing here today. Thanks, Tom.
Awesome. Thank you, Ron. My name is Tom Smith, and I'm the Senior Manager for our Customer Emergency Planning and Operations team. I'm going to share with you a little bit more about potential wildfire outages and other important updates for this year and some of the work we've been doing on the programs that Ron mentioned earlier. So first, let's talk about enhanced power line safety settings. In 2021, we added more sensitive safety settings on power lines that automatically turn off power within 1/10 of a second to help stop wildfires before they start. This is called Enhanced Power Line Safety Settings, or EPSS for short. In 2022, due to the success of the program, we expanded these settings to every customer who lives in those high fire risk areas. And these settings are really proven to help stop wildfires. Last year, there was a 68% reduction in ignitions and a 99% reduction in ignition impact, meaning that nearly all the fires started were smaller and impacted less, despite the very dry drought conditions that we saw last summer. Of course, once the power does go off, we have to check the line for damage. And so these settings do make the system safer. Of course, it could mean unplanned power outages for our customers. And so after there's any outage on an EPSS protected line, we strive to identify the outage cause as we're restoring the power. And so we do an in-depth review process to find potential vegetation contacts, potential bird nesting activities, and anything else that could impact the reliability. And that process helps us determine all of the steps that we need to take to minimize the impact of outages and overall improve your service. So now let's move over and talk about another type of wildfire safety outage, our public safety power shutoffs. High winds can cause tree branches and debris to hit electric lines, damage our equipment, and potentially lead to a wind-driven wildfire. That's why we need to turn off the power during severe weather to help prevent wildfires. This is called the Public Safety Power Shutoff, or PSPS for short. We use this tool when we expect when we expect the weather to be so severe that people's safety, lives, homes, and businesses may be in danger of a wildfire. Of course, every wildfire season is different. We've seen so much rain and snow over the past winter, but we know that dry conditions have returned now. The heat has returned. That all that fuel that's been growing because of that rain and snow is going to be drying out through this now as we enter the late summer and going into fall, and that creates a significant risk. So the actual real-time conditions this fall, as we enter into September and October, are really going to determine if we need to shut off power to ensure safety. So, of course, these programs sound a lot alike, and they even share a lot of the same letters in their name. And so I know there's a lot of confusion potentially around, how we use these two programs. So I'm going to highlight a few key differences here. Every day we look at the wildfire risk and we decide what we need to do to protect our customers. The EPSS system in the program reduces risk from fuel-driven wildfires. We activate EPSS when we have a combination of dry fuels and low humidity. So like right now, with the high heat that we're seeing across the state and all of that fuel that's drying out, most of our high fire threat areas are seeing some sort of EPSS enablement on their circuits. Then in contrast, public safety power shutoffs, they reduce the risk of wind-driven wildfires. So we use the public safety power shutoff program when we have those high winds along with the low humidity, high temperatures, and an abundance of dry fuel. In addition, also red flag warnings declared by the National Weather Service, and real-time observations from our weather stations, cameras, and any crews that we have in the area could contribute to that forecast as well. And of course, because it is a forecast and we're looking out into the future, we can inform you in advance of a public safety power shutoff. But we can't inform you ahead of an EPSS outage because it's automatic based on something that's happening in real time, a tree branch hitting a line, a bird contacting the line, etc. So for any type of outage, we'll of course inform you as soon as possible and give you regular updates. And for more information on the status of any outage and the complete restoration process, customers can always visit pge.com/outages. So we're always going to do our best to share what we know about the weather and our equipment as soon as we can. And on this slide, we want to show you the cadence of notifications that you'll receive when an unplanned outage does occur. The estimated time of restoration is when we expect to be finished in the area and the power restored. Some customers may get power back before that ETOR is listed, and that's because of the way that we step restore circuits. So typically the estimated time of restoration is when we anticipate the entire circuit back online. You may be closer to the substation, which means your power comes back on a little sooner, which is always good news. Of course, customers can view the real-time outage information at our online outage center and search by any specific address, by city, or by county, and the site includes support in 16 different languages. Now let's talk about how customers are notified during a PSPS event. So to keep our customers and communities informed, our PSPS notifications will be provided to agency partners and customers during the key milestones of the event shown here on the slide. These notifications will be provided via call, text, or email, both day and night as needed, depending on the timing of that de-energization event. For any customer who's not a PG&E account holder, or maybe you want to receive notifications for another location in addition to your primary residence, maybe it's your office, your kid's school, local healthcare facility, etc. We have something called address alerts, which are available in 16 languages via phone call or text. So you'll get additional notifications if those facilities are impacted as well. And so to make sure that you have the up-to-date information you need to plan and prepare, we sincerely encourage you to review your contact information we have on file by visiting pge.com/mywildfirealerts. Again, one more time, pge.com/mywildfirealerts. We also provide public safety power shutoff updates at pge.com to local news and radio outlets and also on our social media channels, so you can be sure to have the latest updates. Now let's move over to our Community Wildfire Safety Program and talk a little bit about the work we're doing to lower the risk of wildfire in our service area. Let's start off talking about trees. Of course, trees are a huge source of wildfire risk. And so every year we inspect vegetation on 100,000 miles of power lines. We prune or cut down more than 1 million trees that present a hazard. And we do more pruning where we've had a high volume of vegetation-caused outages, similar to some of the reviews that we talked about with the EPSS program. Together, this work reduces overall wildfire risk and improves the reliability for our customers. If any of this safety work is planned on your property, you can expect an advance notification from us by text or email. And for more information on our vegetation management work, you can always visit pge.com/trees. So now let's talk about system hardening. We're reducing wildfire risk by strengthening poles, installing stronger covered power line out there to reduce the amount of consequences from tree impacts, etc., animal impacts. And we call this overhead system hardening. Over the past 5 years, we've completed 1,009 miles of system hardening work across our service area. And through the end of 2024, we're working on an additional 185 miles. This work's going to occur overall. There's more projects planned, and it's going to take us several years. And however, this will significantly prevent wildfires and significantly improve reliability during that severe weather. Again, preventing tree contacts and overall strengthening our poles and cross arms. So now let's talk a little about situational awareness. As I mentioned for PSPS, to really help us better understand and respond to risk, we built and installed our own network of high definition cameras and weather stations. In 2022, we reached our goal of 600 total high definition cameras installed, allowing us the ability to see more than 90% of the high fire risk areas that we serve. We've also completed a comprehensive network of advanced weather stations, which give us real-time information. You can see all of those cameras and stations located in your community by visiting pge.com/weather. Now let's go on to the next portion where we're going to talk about something where if you watch TV, you've probably seen our commercials and our CEO, Patty Poppy, talking about this. We are committed to burying 10,000 miles of high voltage distribution power lines in and near the highest fire risk areas. Moving these overhead power lines under the ground reduces the ignition risk by approximately 99% in that location, as you can imagine. Of course, undergrounding also limits the future safety power outages because we don't have the risk of those winds driving objects into our lines. It improves overall system reliability, and it decreases the need for that tree work that I mentioned. Undergrounding also helps lower our ongoing maintenance costs and, of course, our vegetation management tree trimming costs. In the past 2 years, we've completed 268 miles of undergrounding in our service territory, and through the end of next year, we project that we'll complete an additional 800 miles. Now, this is really unprecedented. Normal utility, standard practice in a year, we would do 5 to 10 miles in a year in decades past. So this ramp up is extraordinary. It's unprecedented. We're very proud of it, and we're going to continue to ramp those number of miles that we do year over year to eventually reach our 10,000 mile goal. Of course, the work plans can change given the long lead time that these underground projects require. They're very complex, require permitting, working with local communities, etc. And we're going to continue to share those details related to this work in the future. We'll have right now have maps of approximate locations for some of the forecasted work. You can find those at pge.com/undergrounding. And now I'm going to hand it over to Joe, who's going to talk a little bit more about resources available in your community. Take it away, Joe.
Thank you, Tom. My name is Joe Segura. I'm a program manager with PG&E's Customer Emergency Planning and Operations team. And now we're going to talk about resources to help keep you safe. As we have seen already this year, through a historic series of winter storms, earthquakes, even floods, emergencies can happen at any time. We want you to know that the resources we'll cover next are available to support you during all kinds of emergencies, not just during wildfire season. I want to take a minute to touch on something that was brought up earlier in the presentation, to talk about building an emergency kit. In an effort to be safe and secure in the event of an emergency, it is important to think ahead and build an emergency kit before you need it. We recommend stocking up on enough supplies to last a week, putting them in waterproof containers and storing them in a place that's easy to reach. Items that you may need can include non-perishable food, water, utensils. We recommend 1 gallon of water per person per day, baby food, pet food. You're going to need equipment such as flashlights, batteries, a battery-powered radio, a portable charger for cell phones, health and personal supplies such as first aid kits, blankets, clothing, important documents, toiletries, and of course, medications. Your first aid kits, you want to be sure to include antibiotic ointments, bandages, cold packs, blankets, and even more items in there. I'd also recommend having some cash on hand if you're able to do that. For more information on how to build an emergency kit, you can visit our website at pge.com/emergency kit. You go to the next slide, please. So wildfire risk continues to grow in California, and we want our customers to be prepared. One of the resources that we're excited about and we're highlighting is our video learning series, 7 Saturdays to a More Fire-Resistant Home. This series can help you prepare your family, your home, your community for wildfire season. These 7 Saturday series and other resources to help you and your family stay safe can be found at the Safety Action Center at safetyactioncenter.pge.com. Transitioning now from resources for an emergency, these next slides will be about some resources during our resources to our public and community partners during a power safety power shutoff, a PSPS event as we call it. So during a public safety power shutoff, we open local community resource centers where you can access resources. A safe location to meet basic power needs like charging medical equipment and electronic devices, up-to-date information about the public safety power shutoff event, and water, snacks, and other essential items. You can find a community resource center near you during a public safety power shutoff event by visiting our website, pge.com/CRC. Now looking at our disability disaster and access resources, we are working with the California Foundation for Independent Living Centers and 16 participating disability disaster access and resource centers to provide support before and during public safety power shutoffs. This includes hotel stays, food stipends, and transportation as needed for eligible customers with access and functional needs. On this map, you can see the counties with DDAR, that's our Disability Disaster Access Resource locations. If you or another member of your household depends on electricity for medical needs, please reach out to your local Disability Disaster Access and Resources Center prior to a public safety power shutoff for assistance. We also know that food loss is a challenge for customers during and after a public safety power shutoff event. Customers can find a combination of perishable and non-perishable foods to support their families at participating food banks. Food banks will provide food replacement packages up to 3 days after restoration from a PSPS event. Some food banks offer food replacement packages to income qualified customers only, while others do not have income restrictions. Please check with your local food bank where necessary. In addition to food replacement partnerships, we're also working with Meals on Wheels to provide an additional meal for seniors who are impacted by public safety power shutoffs. For our backup power offerings, we have highlighted here several programs that can help you find out how you might be able to get backup power during an outage. We offer financial support and rebates for our most impacted customers. To learn more about these programs, you can visit pge.com/backuppower or any of the links that you see displayed here on the screen. At this time, I'll turn it back over to Dave. We'll share more customer resources and lead our Q&A section.
All right, thanks, Joe. So we can find more resources and information about our wildfire safety efforts at pge.com/wildfiresafety, or really to going to any of the pages we're showing here on the screen. The first one, pge.com/wildfiresafety, is really a landing place. If you're not sure where to start to look for more information, I suggest starting there, and you can find links there to a number of the other resources we have available. So with that, we're going to transition to the Q&A portion of the event. And as a reminder, we will have this presentation posted at pge.com/webinars. I've been receiving some great questions. Thank you for those. Keep them coming. And a reminder, you can ask a question by submitting it through the Q&A box in chat. We're going to do our best to answer all the questions we receive. But again, if we don't get to your question tonight, you can reach out to our dedicated email address, wildfiresafety@pge.com. Okay, with that, we're going to get started. I'm going to start generally at the top, though I may bounce around to group similar questions. So Joe, I'm going to come to you first. Customer says they've experienced a higher than normal number of outages in the Occidental area, and asking what we're doing to fix that. So I know we may not be able to speak specifically to those outages, but can you speak more generally about how we look into and evaluate outages? And then if this is related to enhanced power line safety settings, maybe add a little more there as well.
Yes, thanks, Dave. So generally speaking, for our power outages, when there is an unknown cause, so when we go up to do a patrol where we look to find where the outage is, we have a kind of a general review of what we look for. We look for opportunities for improvement with our vegetation management. So is there any additional vegetation work that needs to get done? Animals play a large part, sometimes causing nuisance in the line. So are there opportunities for us to install, animal guards, or potentially even reframe a cross arm or something like that to help mitigate any animal exposure that may be up there? If it's in particular associated to our EPSS program, that's our enhanced power line safety settings, there are even additional measures that we take. We install fault indicators along the line. We can install several fault indicators to help narrow down an area to look where there is potentially trouble, as well as do an advanced engineering review and adjust settings if that's necessary as well. I would also even just take the opportunity to put a plug in where we're constantly even looking at new technology, piloting sensor programs, and other options like that, where we're trying to get some of this information and get it in quickly so that we can identify causes, in particular when it's an unknown outage.
Thanks, Joe, and stay with me. I'm going to ask a question on undergrounding. So customers are asking where they can find maps of our undergrounding plans and undergrounding efforts. Can you share that?
Yes, that is going to be at pge.com/undergrounding. So again, pge.com/undergrounding. And there you can find maps and forecasted work information as well.
Thanks, Joe. And I'll add, for customers who are interested in undergrounding plans, pge.com/undergrounding is a great site to bookmark, right? As we're continuing to build out the plan to underground 10,000 miles of overhead lines in the high fire risk areas. The prioritization, the models we use to help prioritize, those are evolving as we learn more about wildfire risk and about how we can effectively and efficiently underground. So it's a great place to check, right? Near-term plans don't change as much, right, as we start doing the design and we start doing the construction. But as we start sharing more information through that website, it is a tool and a resource for customers to go back and check in to understand where undergrounding is planned across our service territory or in your community. All right, we have another question here. I'll start, I think, generally, then I'm going to go to Pam, and Pam will have to have you introduce yourself because we didn't do that earlier. But a customer asked if there are programs to decrease fire risk that might lower fire insurance costs. And so I'll start kind of at a high level and turn it over to Pam, our expert here. So we recognize California is in a challenging situation with the wildfire risk and the changing climate, that insurers recognize that, right, and have been not providing as many options or not providing insurance in some areas. Our PG&E is working with several of the larger insurers to help them understand the actions that we're taking and how that helps reduce wildfire risk across the state. But in addition to that, I think there are probably some opportunities for homeowners as well to partner with local agencies or do work around their own homes to help reduce wildfire risk. So maybe I'll go to Pam and let her follow up on that.
No, that's a great question, and thank you for that introduction, for beginning that. I'm Pamela Perdue. I'm a supervisor for PG&E's Public Safety Specialist Group, and we interact directly with all of our public safety agencies, both on the county OES side and the fire and law enforcement. And we do work with our county OESs, and our county OESs Office of Emergency Services are very concerned about this issue for their constituents. And through the counties, you will find local fire safe councils that are very proactive in working directly with the county and working with the local fire agencies on helping customers to learn more about defensible space. There's Ready, Set, Go from CAL FIRE, and those people that live in a more rural area, there are programs available through the U.S. Forest Service that help customers look at their property and create safe zones, create defensible space, know what vegetation and things need to be cleared away from the house and on the property, enhancing ingress and egress to driveways and things of that nature. And this is something that the customers can demonstrate to their insurance company that they're taking a very proactive measure to do this. And a lot of these programs, there's no cost. They're very educational, and the agencies are very happy to help our community members take part in that.
Great, thank you, Pam. So I'm going to take a couple of these undergrounding questions and lump them together and move through them. So a question about first, a reminder of where to find information on undergrounding. So pge.com/undergrounding is the site where you can see our plans for undergrounding. So the next, a little more specifically, customers asking how undergrounding works when there may be obstacles in the way, like as trees or structures. Typically, or often what happens in undergrounding, and I should say generally what happens in undergrounding, is the main line, the main distribution line that you see on the top of poles is what's put underground. So the actual service that goes to the home is left remaining overhead. So we see there are less obstacles in our way when we are moving down a roadway, for example, down a road right of way.
I'm really sorry about this, but I can't take any requests.
Sorry, we have can our team all make sure we're checking mutes. All right, I think we got it fixed. So there aren't those obstacles such as home structures in the right of way. They may be as we traverse across the ground, not near a roadway, and we would work around those. We would make sure the plan worked around existing structures. Trees are a little different. Trees as an obstacle. I think often when we think of undergrounding, we think of leaving the area above the ground untouched, and that's typically not the case in undergrounding. Trees may need to be removed to facilitate the installation, or removed to ensure that the underground facilities remain safe and can be used for the years and decades to come. So they may be removed where that's necessary to facilitate the undergrounding work. And lastly, the question about undergrounding, and specifically on main roads and near schools. It's a little different of a plan there. So we have the undergrounding work that we've largely been talking about is work that's driven by PG&E for wildfire risk. When we see major corridors, I think what you may be referring to is what we call Rule 20A. Rule 20A projects are they're in areas of the community that are like the most used by the general public, right? Your more frequented thoroughfares. Those are a partnership between local government, whether it's a city or county, and PG&E, and they're focused where there's a high concentration of overhead facilities and a roadway that's used by the general public or carries a large volume of pedestrian traffic as well, which a school would be one of those. So if you are if that's the situation here, I would suggest reaching out to your local jurisdiction, because Rule 20A work is not driven by PG&E, but there are credits that are given to the cities and counties, and then they can use them to drive undergrounding work in their area where they see that is the most beneficial. All right, I'm going to come back to Joe. We have a question on enhanced power line safety settings. Customers asking, when we restore power, what steps are taken to shorten the duration of the outages? You're on mute, Joe. You need to start over again. I think I muted our team when we had a little mix up here, so. Maybe Joe. Oh,
I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
I'm sorry.
Gotcha.
Sorry about that. Thank you for the question. So kind of a multifaceted, kind of a short-term resolution and a long-term answer, right? So definitely recognize the impacts that EPSS outages can have, and sometime an extended restoration time associated with that. So while there's no single solution to reduce the overall wildfire risk in California that we face, we continue to be committed to keeping our customers safe, right? So that layers of protection slide that we saw earlier in the presentation, where it talks about system tree hardening, undergrounding, right? All those programs long term will have impacts on EPSS, even as we have more infrastructure under the ground, or as we have hardened tree wire out there that maybe not be as sensitive to a fault location on it. So there are some long-term plans to help try to adjust the restoration efforts, as well as some shorter-term solutions. So I had mentioned earlier the piloting new technologies to help us automate fire detection, to help us automate locations where faults may be occurring. We are, constantly evaluating locations to install more fault indicators, as well as line reclosers. Those are safety protection devices that we put on the line. And without trying to get too technical here, essentially we try to shorten. If we have these devices on the line, we try to shorten the impact of the number of customers that are associated with an outage. So if we can break up the line into smaller pieces, then that oftentimes will allow us to restore the power more quickly, and impact less customers associated with that protection device.
All right, thank you, Joe. Going to group a couple more here about, we mentioned reading chat and trying to answer at the same time. Can't do that. So food banks for and largely claims from food spoilage during outages. So when there are public safety power shutoff events, that is when the local food banks that we partner with and Meals on Wheels provide additional support to customers who have been impacted by those longer duration outages that are typically associated with a public safety power shutoff. As a reminder, we didn't have any public safety power shutoffs last year in 2022, but customers did experience them in 2021. And we don't know what the weather is going to bring this year. If we do see those significant wind events as we move out of the summer into the fall, there may be the need for public safety power shutoffs as a last resort to protect our customers and the communities. So back to the food. If that were to happen, our food banks are there to support, or the food banks that in your communities are there to support customers. I think in addition, for any outage, there are a couple opportunities here. If customers experience outages and feel that PG&E is liable, they can always submit a claim. The easiest way to do that is through our website, pge.com/claims. You can also call, and one of our representatives will walk through the form with you. You can call us at 1-800-743-5000. That's 1-800-PGE-5000. they can walk through the claims with you as well. And that then the challenge, one of the challenges there is, in order to pay claims, we need receipts to understand what that claim value is. That's often a challenge that we understand is there for our customers. We don't always keep our receipts. I think often with food receipts, it tends to be we happen to have them still in the grocery bag as opposed to specifically saving them. But claims are available for customers who experience food loss during long duration power outages. And I'll say lastly, there is what we call our safety net program that is there for customers who experience really long duration outages, typically 48 hours or more. And those are automated payments. I believe it's $25 a day, up to $100. It will be paid automatically. You don't need to file for that. If you experience those outages, those longer duration outages, we process those automatically, and they're sent roughly 60 days, I believe, after the event. Okay, we have a question here about the question is really getting to balancing the understanding the need for safety and wildfire risk, and balancing that with outages that customers are experiencing. And we're hearing, I'm grouping a couple questions here together that customers are experiencing a more than average than they have in the past number of outages. And so how do we balance that risk? And George, maybe we can go back to the slide on the layers of protection. I think it was one that Ron covered toward the beginning. I'll start as we catch up with that. So the outages we're experiencing, that many customers are experiencing, especially those that are associated with the enhanced power line safety settings, that's the second layer here, right? The blue layer we're seeing, but these make up a suite of options to protect our communities. So that's one tool. And as we move down this list, we move from some of these shorter term solutions, which often have reliability impacts for our customers, to longer term solutions that are long term and more permanent answers to the wildfire risk in California. But as we move through that, the shorter term ones like enhanced safety settings and vegetation management are very important, but we recognize that we need to be better at providing reliable service to our customers in some communities. So we have, as Joe mentioned it, we have outage review teams that after every outage, not only part of the restoration, but back in the office, our engineering teams, our operations teams, our vegetation management teams are trying to determine what happened for each outage, what was the root cause, and then what should we be doing about it? Is it trimming more trees? Is it installing animal guards? If it's specifically related to the settings that are in place, then we may need to adjust those to make them less sensitive or make sure the devices are coordinated with each other. And so they're looking for those opportunities, and then we're making those adjustments. We recognize also we have an opportunity to communicate that more with our customers as we are making changes to improve reliability in your neighborhoods, to share that with you so that customers know what's going on, what actions we're taking, and what they can expect. I hope that answers the question. Recognize and want to acknowledge that outages are frustrating. Outages can be dangerous for customers who are vulnerable, and so we don't take that lightly. Our job here is to keep the lights on, and we take that very seriously. And our teams are working hard every day to identify any opportunity we can to improve the reliability for our customers. Okay, Joe, I'm going to come back to you. Question about community resource centers. Customers asking if a community resource center is only open during public safety power shutoffs, or if we open them during other events such as a winter storm.
Yeah, so community resource centers are open during public safety power shutoffs. That does happen. That will happen. And in terms of other emergencies, such as a winter storm or some other sort of catastrophic disaster, the answer is potentially yes, they could be opened. We have in the past opened them during, really high impactful winter storms. We work with our local community partners, our local government agencies, and partner with them on, the approved places to put them, what the community is needing, things of that such. But it depends on the emergency itself. But again, I just want to reiterate for PSPS, they will be open for emergencies outside of PSPS. I'd say it's on a case-by-case basis if they will be open or not.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Joe. That's true, right? It's case by case. I would say in general, community resource centers are not open for most events. The reason for that is that we're in the electricity business, and in the PSPS, CRCs are a place to charge a device while you're getting information about the PG&E outage, the public safety power shutoff, when we can expect power to be back, etc., and access to some basic resources there. During significant storms, low snow events, flooding, we partner with the local jurisdictions, the counties, cities, to really supplement what they may be providing. They may have shelters set up in partnership with the Red Cross or through their own resources, or be providing cooling centers in a heat event, for example. And so we partner with them to understand what they are providing in the community and how we might be able to support that. But in general, the CRC is not meeting all the needs of a customer during other emergencies besides PSPS. So we rely on the local jurisdiction and partner with them and don't stand up CRCs. Okay, I have a question here, a reminder asking if the webinar is captioned and where can they get a copy. Two good questions. Yes, the captions are available, and I apologize for not seeing this question earlier and getting to it so that you could view captions. But you can, there's a CC button in the lower corner of the screen. You can click that, and that will bring up in the bottom right corner, and you can bring up the captions, choose the settings, and you can choose the language you are looking for from those closed caption settings there. And then as far as getting a copy of this, the presentation materials that we have here, as well as a recording of the video tonight, of the session tonight, will be posted to pge.com/webinars. And that'll takes us about a week and a half to get those posted there, to package everything up. But if you're interested in something specific from this presentation, we've hosted several other sessions. All customer webinar similar to tonight about a month ago, and then we had community specific ones as well that are posted to that same website, pge.com/webinars. So you can you may be able to find your local community there and get a little more community specific or region specific information through one of those other webinars. And the presentation materials are there for those sessions as well. Okay, Joe, I'm going to come back to you. Question about EPSS, the Enhanced Powerline Safety Settings. Customers asking how they can be notified when those are turned on. So where can customers go if they are curious if their home or business is being served by an EPSS enabled circuit?
Yes, so we have that information. A customer can visit pge.com/outages, and if their home or business is being served by an EPSS enabled circuit, meaning that those safety settings on that circuit are enabled, then they will see a little blue bar on top of the notification. So you can put your address in there. You put your address in, you hit enter, and it will produce a little blue bar image above that tells you that you are being served by a circuit that does have the enhanced safety settings on it.
Thank you, Joe. And since you mentioned the outage map, I'm going to take another question here. Customer says they're running they run a generator when the power's out, and often the updates aren't getting to them timely enough, asking how we can speed that up. Thank you for that. Thank you for reinforcing what we're already starting. Yes, we are working toward speeding up our notifications to customers in all forms, right? On the web and the outage notifications that are sent from our automated system via phone, text message, and email. One of the things we've done recently, very recently, I think late last week or early this week, if you visit pge.com/outages, you'll now see a pop-up box that says something along the lines of please enter an address for more information. What we found through our little behind the scenes background are the process to launch direct to customer notifications, phone calls, for example, and the web were tied together. And the reason for that was we wanted to make sure that customers got the same information, whether they were listening to the phone call or looking on the web. But what that means is that the slowest resource to update drives how long it takes to get information out to customers. So we've decoupled those. And the reason for that, asking customers to put their address in there on the web, is that now allows us to speed up the information going to the web, while some of our other notifications may take a little more time to be processed through the system. So those notifications can take 15 to 20 minutes. And I know when you're running a generator and the power comes back on, we want to know sooner than that. So we are working to reduce the overall time of our direct notifications, while at the same time making the information available through the address lookup on pge.com/outages sooner in the process. So thank you for that. Okay, we have a couple more here. A question about undergrounding, and I should have covered this earlier. I apologize for mentioning how we underground the overhead lines along the roadway. So the question is, will Comcast, AT&T, any of the other telecommunications companies underground their lines in the same tunnel as PG&E while we do it? Sorry, muting another tool here. What we do when we're undergrounding is we share those plans with the telecommunications providers, so they know what we're doing and have the opportunity to join with us. Now, we can't force them to do it, so they have their own plans. And what will happen if they decide not to underground is we have the pole, the 3 wires on top, 2 to 3 wires, typically 3, are the PG&E high voltage lines. And then you have the thicker line, typically in the middle, lower. That's your telecommunication line run on the pole. If the telecommunication company isn't going to underground, then we remove our facilities, put them underground, and the poles cut off above the cable or phone line. So while PG&E is undergrounding for a long-term wildfire solution, there may still be a pole along the street or in front of our customers' homes or businesses if the telecommunication line is going to stay on that pole. And that then becomes a pole owned by that other utility, not PG&E any longer. Okay. Scrolling through here. Customers asking about, I'll do my best here, not the planned maintenance expert, but saying they had a planned outage today. We have the heat in the summer, right, and recognizing the challenges that brings, asking if we can plan outages in the spring or the fall instead of when it's hot. We attempt there are certain aspects of work that we do move into the cooler times of the year or even overnight when it can have less impact, when it's expected to have less impact on our customers. So we do attempt to do that whenever we can. However, it's a very large system, and there are certain aspects of our work that are critical and can't be done can't be delayed to the fall winter or spring, so we have to do that in the summer. There are, when you receive your planned outage letter or text message, I believe there's a phone number there to contact if it's a very specific situation, like a medical condition that this could cause challenges for. You can reach out to that number and share that. Sometimes there are opportunities to move it or provide additional support to our customers who may be impacted by planned outages. But in general, when we plan the work, we're doing it when the work needs to be done to ensure we don't have a situation that causes outages or that we are delaying a new business coming in, for example. All right, we have a few minutes here. I'm going to take, there's a question about trees and when trees are removed adjacent to the PG&E lines and the wood is left on site for the homeowner then to manage, and expressing the frustration that, you know, done fuel reductions, done all the things they should be doing around their home to ensure defensible space, and then wood may get left. Couple things here. The wood is left in general. The wood is the property of our customers, so we can't take it for our own use or dispose of without the customer's permission. And there are some programs that do remove the wood at PG&E's cost, assuming that it's accessible. We can get there and load it up. So if you have specific questions about wood on your property or on the property next to you, the right of way in front of your home, encourage you to reach out to our wildfire safety line. That's either wildfiresafety@pge.com. Send some photos, send your address, etc. We can look into whether or not that's wood that PG&E can remove. You can also call us at 866-743-6589 if there are specific questions about your property and the wood that's left there. Okay, we have a few minutes. I'll pause. I think we've gotten through the questions that I can see in the chat. But I do want to give a moment, since we have a few minutes left, to see if customers have any additional questions for us. While I do that, I will encourage you, Tom shared earlier, the importance of updating your contact information with us for any type of outage, whether it be a public safety power shutoff or an unplanned outage on a blue sky day. Well, we can only notify our customers and share information if we have your contact information. So visit pge.com/mywildfirealerts, and you can update your contact information there. You can also do it at the phone number here shown on the screen, 866-743-6589. You can choose, we have phone messages, text messages, and email. Customers can choose any combination of those, 1, 2, or 3 of them that they'd like to receive notifications by, and we will send the information to you through your preferred channels. All right, I'm not seeing any more questions come in, so we are going to wrap up. I want to thank everyone for joining us tonight for this wildfire safety webinar. Thank you for the great questions. We welcome that feedback. We welcome your input. There were some comments that were posted as opposed to questions, so we take those back and we do read through those and make sure we're either taking the comment to heart or responding if there's a response, a question kind of built into that comment that we missed. And as a reminder, if we didn't get to your question today, you can always email us at wildfiresafety@pge.com. So thank you again for joining us, and have a safe evening.